She founded an architectural concrete company.
He founded a $100 million clothing company.
She took the world by storm as a social media star.
He took the world by storm as a famous serial entrepreneur.
Together we started a business.
And had babies.
Now we're figuring out the best ways to do both.
Join us as we learn from other entrepreneurs going through the same life struggles.
As they share their life hacks about success, love, kids,
and everything in between.
Dr. Group, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. It's awesome to have you on. I know it's the middle of your day and you have a lot going on, and we appreciate you coming on with us.
Thanks for having me. I mean, this is what I do. This is what I was born to do, just helping as many people as we possibly can.
And I really believe that too, because that comes off, and every time I hear you speak, that always comes through you. You're so genuine.
And we had the privilege to speak a couple times about my own health challenges, which I won't get into because that's a whole nother podcast itself. And I still haven't felt totally comfortable to share, but I'm so grateful to have you on my healing journey, really, from the heart. Like right before the podcast, I put the baby down doing the Wim Hof breathing exercise that you introduced me to. And I'm like, how am I going to get the baby to sleep? And it's something that works every time. It's crazy. So I actually do it with her, and she passed out. So hopefully she'll stay asleep.
Amazing.
She speaks about you all the time, and she's always with a big smile on her face. And she always
sweet.
says how much you've helped her. I think, because of the show, and I know you have a lot of advice for all of our listeners, but we also want to talk about your journey and how you became this great entrepreneur and a doctor, and you're helping so many people. But so let's go back to, how did you first want to become a doctor? What in your past that led you in that direction? Because not everybody just wakes up, they want to be a doctor.
That's right.
What led you that way?
Oh gosh. I mean, I have a crazy life. I mean, it started with, and my mom was an alcoholic. My dad was a workaholic, and lived all. I actually hated school, and I had an entrepreneurial spirit since I was young. My parents, I had long hair, earrings when I was like 13 years old, and my parents were I was driving my parents crazy. So that's when we started family counseling, and I hated it. But looking back now, I'm actually really glad that we did go through some of that, because, when you're a kid, you don't realize, you don't realize about how to communicate better with the family, and you don't think about what upsets your mom and your dad, and understand that a lot more. So needless to say, I wanted to be like Rambo, right? So I joined the military when I was 17 and went into infantry and excelled a lot at that, and went into some special operations task force duties, and then got out of the military and started my 12-year multiple major I guess you could say kind of career. And during that time, I was always doing other stuff. Like, I was always doing the latest and greatest multi-level marketing deal. I guess I just a natural salesman or something. I don't know. But if you fail enough and you learn from your failures, you just become better and better and better at stuff. And I originally started off because I wanted to be an attorney. I hated memorizing all those cases. After a year, I was like, this is done. And then I went into health sciences and then kinesiology. And, for years and years and years, studying all about the body and different things like that, I decided that I wanted to be a heart surgeon.
Wow.
The strange thing that happened, which is a great thing that happened actually, is right before I was about to take my entrance exams or my MCAT, I met a guy, and he was on a research team looking for natural therapies for cancer. That was in the mid-90s, and that was before internet. Barely internet. So there was no information about where to go to find alternative medicine or cancer, anything like that. And that's when MD Anderson and the cancer centers were just introducing the CAM programs, the complementary alternative medicine.
Right.
Oh, wow.
I was completely brainwashed into the medical system by that point.
As was everybody else in the world for the most part.
Exactly. I mean, now, talking about children and everything. I mean, that's one of my biggest issues right now is how the children are being brainwashed away from values and other stuff. But and that's another whole topic, and how they're being medicated. But I, at the time, just to back up a little bit with the family counseling and everything, thank God I was not put on ADD medications, because they didn't have them back then. And nobody really understood me until later on, when I met a kind of a metaphysical psychologist, and she did an exam on me and said, well, you're an indigo child. And I said, well, what's that? And then she started going over, well, you're real spiritual, right? And I'm like, yes, I've been having visions since I was a little kid. I had 30 inventions by the time I was 30 in a notebook. And she starts describing all this. You didn't like school, and it's hard for you to adapt to society and all this stuff. I'm like, yes, yes, yes. Wow. So that was my first introduction to indigo children. And now, working with so many families over the years, autistic children and stuff like that, I've realized and introduced that to so many different people, because it's a higher spirituality of children that have been born in to this world, and are still being born in, to raise the consciousness of the planet. And they're here to help us evolve. But when I met Gary, was his name, and he was in the cancer research, he asked me something. He said, so do you want to treat the root cause of disease, or do you want to treat the symptoms of disease? And I said, what are you talking about? He goes, well, you're just going to be prescribing. A real doctor teaches, a real doctor doesn't prescribe. So what are you talking about? And he said, go do your own research. He goes, have you taken any pharmaceutical and broken it down? You got a background in chemistry, biochemistry. I said, no, they don't teach us how to do that. And I went to the library and I broke down a couple pharmaceuticals and looked at the biochemistry and looked at what it did to the body. And I was like, in shock. It only took me 2 hours to realize that everything that I had been studying was wrong, pretty much, and that pharmaceuticals cause multiple issues in the body. Now, I'm not saying, for emergency situations, you might not need some, but long-term degenerative treatment, even when we were looking at cancer and radiation and chemotherapy and all that stuff, anything that is a potential toxin to the body that's going to lower the body's vibrations or energy levels. And at that point, I can remember driving home from the library, and I was crying because I was like, my whole, everything I dreamed of was just gone in 2 hours.
Wow. Yeah.
And then I can remember, all of a sudden, I just went into this space and kind of like blacked out, but it was just this light around me. And it was this feeling of just pure love and bliss. And my hands I could feel my hands coming up like this. By the way, I was going 65 miles an hour down the freeway when this happened. And I don't know, it felt like 5 or 10 minutes, but all of a sudden I just got this message: you can heal with your hands, and you can heal the natural way, become a natural healer. And all of a sudden I just, boom, came back into it, and my hands were on the wheel, and I was like 10 miles down the road. I was like, that was insane.
That was your miracle moment.
I was like, what? And so I went back to this guy and I said, teach me everything you need. Teach me everything you know. And I ended up joining the research team. And this was, like I said, back in the mid-90s. And we were very blessed to meet some of the top doctors in the world that were doing all kinds of crazy stuff, like urine therapy and hyperthermia and ozone. And I was on the Rife research team, Royal Raymond Rife, who developed a machine that uses frequencies to attack different types of microbes and cancers, and he's very successful. And then I ended up getting to work with some of Nikola Tesla's understudies after that. And it was just amazing. I was just having this stuff in my lap, and we studied and studied. And we were at that point in time really, really amazed, because part of our research was looking at the root cause of illness, looking at the root cause of disease. And that took us down some deep, dark rabbit holes. When you start looking at fluoride in the water, chlorine, the chemicals in the air, and you start looking at the GMOs, and you start looking at the vaccines, and you start following the money, and you start, it all leads up to a certain group of people and this, and then it starts going into even deeper and darker things. And then we were getting information about dark operations, government operations, trafficking. I mean, it was, but all of it had to do with the root cause, whether it's mental manipulation or it's purposely creating toxicity levels to form you a certain way or create some sort of disease. That's what we were looking into, and that's what we were exposing. And when we presented our research, we had like stacks of research in the 90s. Like we knew we had the root cause. We knew it identified everything. Like we knew exactly what caused every single disease known to man, not Down syndrome and genetic diseases, but every type of acquired disease. And we had protocols that would reverse all those diseases, including cancer, about 85% with cancer, because there's an emotional component. And if it's your time to go, if that's the divine plan, there's nothing you can do about that. Right.
Right.
So we presented it, and basically we were given gag orders. I was followed around in black cars. A lot of the doctors that we talked to ended up going missing, that were killed. It was a pretty crazy time in my life. And we were like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. Like, we have cures for every single disease out here, and they don't want them? Like, what is the deal? I can remember they getting thrown in the back of or asked nicely to get in the back of a black car. And they took me to a restaurant where a wall opened up, and took me back in the back and told me that they wanted me to join their organization. And I had 24 hours to call the number. Of course I didn't. And even after that, I was so pissed because they were keeping this knowledge from the public that we opened up a cancer clinic in 1998. By the way, in the meantime, I started chiropractic college because I was like, well, I need to do something to get some sort of doctorate behind my name, even though ultimately our group was like the first alternative oncologists in the late 1998. And we just said, we were rebels. We said, we got to get this information out. So back then we started a website. We started putting the information on there. We opened up a clinic. We got really popular really fast. I mean, to the point where we were ending up treating we had a contract with the royal family in London, and cancer, they would fly in to see us. But it only lasted a couple years before we got so big so fast. And we had such success rates that we became a serious threat to the pharmaceutical industry. And the FDA ready to shut us down, almost threw me in jail to this day. And so I haven't been able to technically see patients. However, there's a group of us kind of behind the scenes that we meet, and we develop protocols and everything like that. And friends and family and people like yourself, especially, we work with a lot of influencers and everything, and we just do it pro bono because you guys have the ability to reach millions of people too. And so if we all work together as a team and we all share this information, then we can reach hundreds of millions of people around the world. So
I was telling Dan what a fantastic job you've done. Like, you don't see a healer be that good at business. So we're like, what is his business background? Because he's done an amazing job, building his business. He works with some of the top celebrities and influencers in the world. And it just sounds like you just dug deep. And even the way you produce your supplements, honest and you work real, like it takes longer. You were mentioning something about like you don't use metal, you use glass, and it's just a lot of information. I'm still learning this stuff, but I was like, wow, this is incredible.
Yeah, it was. I found. I think she found everything that she had been looking for when she first started talking to you, because it was. I think the truth about cancer really opened her eyes to a lot of things too, and myself too, because I come from not traditional medicine, but I'd grown up going to doctors like everybody else. But that one question that you were asked um, by your early mentor was kind of the same question that opened my eyes when I heard that on Truth for Cancer.
Right. And we're still trying to figure out the root cause that started this madness. And I'm learning I'm like, wait, I didn't get enough sleep. I pushed myself, you know, with a European single mom, she didn't get sleep. So I felt guilty if I sat down, I would push myself, go to the gym. Sleep wasn't a big, I don't know. I don't know why I felt guilty about it, you know?
Well, for all entrepreneurs, it's kind of sleep deprivement is an issue.
Not taking the right supplements, not eating right, doubling the animal proteins because I wanted to be lean and have lots of muscle. I was doing a lot of it wrong. And it's people like you that are opening our eyes and saying, wait a minute, we got to step back and look for the clues, as you were saying, in the Bible, and just going back to the way our ancestors and grandmothers, great-great-grandmothers, great-great-grandfathers healed themselves.
Yeah, what was that? What early on, why is it that it wasn't as much of an issue when like I was younger? Like nobody really thought about that too much. We ate regular foods. We didn't, nobody was thinking about organic at the time. I don't even know if the foods were organic at that time.
Probably not. Why would we?
Why is it so much more of an issue now? Do you think it's because we know more, or do you think it wasn't a problem as much back then?
No, it wasn't as much as an issue back then because, well, first of all, the industrial manufacturing, when they purposely tried to stop the housewife from cooking. I mean, that's a whole nother story, and try to, you know, push her in and create plastic foods and microwaves and all that, which were actually banned in most countries because of what it does to the food. So there's a lot of different factors. If even like for us, like I'm 53 now, and wow, I actually found my vaccine certificate from the 12th grade, and I had 3 vaccines from the time I was born till the time I was in 12th grade.
Wow.
Right now, you have kids that have 76 vaccinations. Every single food, the sugar, I mean, take when we were growing up and times it times 10,000 or even more, and that's the issue right now. So what's happened is the air's become way more toxic. The environment in the home has become more toxic. The environment outside the home has become more toxic. The food has become more toxic. The water's become more toxic. Basically, everything has become more toxic. Like some of the things that were really, really bad when we were growing up were when they were going by spraying DEET and all the chemicals in the air and stuff like that. But it's really a combination of a lot of things. And this is that's a good lead-in question, because that's what we found. We found that every single person is different, and everybody has a different toxic threshold is what we called it. So one person might be able to take in 2 million toxins, they don't have any symptoms. Another person might be super sensitive and might only take in 50,000 chemicals and toxins on a daily basis, and they might get sick and their body might be broken down. Ultimately, if you talk about how healing actually works, all healing is nothing more than vibration. I mean, really, the body is nothing more than energy and vibration, and both Tesla and Einstein said that. So think about it, like in your environment every single day, whatever you're exposed to, whatever you're putting in your body, is it lowering your vibrations or is it raising your vibrations? So water, clean food, organic food, live food, those are all going to raise your vibrations. Dead food, cooked food, all that is going to lower your vibrations. And then you have the emotional component in there as well, like fear, anger, stress, jealousy, depression, all that stuff. That's going to lower your vibrations tremendously. And so really I'm all about simplicity, really. I try to like do everything in simplicity. And I've learned so much over the years too on how to heal the body with simplicity, from going from 20 years ago with 600 types of supplements to the last 4 or 5 years studying how the fastest and cheapest way anybody can heal any disease. And I can tell you that would be not, I don't recommend it for everybody, especially for children, but it would be water only fasting, sunlight, basically all the things God gave us that are for free.
Right.
I could take any cancer, any patient and go up against any other doctors, and not to brag, and I never take credit for it, because a true doctor is a teacher. And what my job is to teach you what is causing your situation and then how to reactivate your own self-healing mechanism.
Right.
So that's what it's really all about.
Yeah. And that's what I loved about you, because you have this incredible company, but when we first spoke, you didn't even introduce that stuff to work. You were talking about breathing and stress and water, things that were free. And I was like, this guy is a good guy. I feel it. Like, and at that point I was sharing with you how I was afraid to, you asked what vitamins I'm on, and I'm having a hard time taking in supplements and stuff at the moment. And, now I'm getting braver and trying new things. But at that time, I just started with the breathing and meditation and all those simple things. And I noticed a huge change. And I'm like, why didn't anybody tell me this stuff before? Like, who is Wim Hof? And this I'm so grateful for someone that just taps into the simple things that are free. But
well, let me ask you, is, with entrepreneurs, and especially with COVID and everything that's going on, people having to stay home, our stresses are greater,
right.
our family life is harder.
Right now.
We got people that are dealing with anxiety and stress and especially depression too. There's people I hear, suicides are up.
Gosh, yeah.
What's something that those people and entrepreneurs, we're dealing with we have a lot of stress and a lot of
people are losing their
things that we're dealing
businesses
with
right now.
Yeah. What can they do to help
de-stress?
To de-stress and deal with those
also
issues.
Build our immunity. Right now, a lot of people are breathing through masks. They're scared. They're driving with masks in their car alone. Like, what could we do to deal with the stress, the fear, and building our immunity? People that are just getting started on this health journey to be.
Those are all great questions right now. After interviewing thousands of entrepreneurs and helping them, because entrepreneurs, most of the time, the majority of them don't put their health as a high priority. Like, I've had billionaires at 28 years old that have come to me and said, I've got enough money to retire, but it's like, I feel worse than I've ever felt in my entire life. My marriage is on the brink. Yes. I'm stressed out. I'm on 5 different medications and everything. And so one of the things that I've noticed is that as an entrepreneur, we're always focused on, most of the time, work. Like, we're constantly thinking about our employees. We're thinking about innovations. We're thinking about disruptions. We're thinking about the next big product. We're thinking about doing SWOT analysis. We're thinking about strategy. We're thinking about all this stuff to grow a company. Like, it's that startup vibe. Even if your company, a good entrepreneur, if your company's 5, 10, 20 years old, you still have that startup vibe. It's like you're excited. You want to just do the next thing. But when that happens, so the family a lot of times suffers. And one of the things that I've noticed is entrepreneurs put all of their techniques that they know, like leadership and management and communication, into the company, but they don't do the same thing for the family. So if you think that the family is a business too, and you're basically running 2 businesses, and you utilize all your excitement and all your strategy, and you sit down, you're like, okay, my family is a business too. And in order for us to be successful as a family and be successful as a business, we have to talk about what's going on. We have to communicate. We have to set goals. We have to look at threats like SWOT analysis. We have to look at our strengths. We have to look at our goals. We have to look at all this stuff. One of the best ways that I've found, and I've tried multiple different things, but this is something that I've done that works really, really good for our family, is, it sounds simple, but it's basically winning the evenings and then also winning the mornings. And in order to, when I say winning the mornings, it's doing something together as a family in the morning. And so I think it's very important for not only your employees, but also your family to do personal development, because a happy person outside of work is going to give that much more performance at work. And you're going to be personally a lot happier.
What's an example of what your family does in the morning?
So we do every morning. First of all, we make sure that we get a good night's sleep. And that is like one of the most important things that I see is not happening with entrepreneurial families.
For sure.
Kids are staying up way too late. Parents are staying up watching TV, watching negative stuff or the news or anything like that. So we have a hard rule, no food after 7:30, because you don't want a lot of food sitting in. It's going to disrupt your sleep. And then no electronics in the bedrooms. Make sure you put plants in your bedrooms where you sleep. Make sure it's completely dark in there. And make sure that you don't watch any TV or anything negative an hour before you go to bed. And just doing those things alone. Of course, you want to make sure, though, that you're sleeping on an organic mattress, organic pillow, all that, because all these memory foam mattresses and everything that outgas all these VOCs, you don't want to be breathing in a bunch of chemicals. So two of the areas when we used to go in houses and help people out that we would detoxify, let's say, are the bedroom and the kitchen. Those are the two main rooms that you need to detoxify in your home to live healthy. But so every single morning we wake up. I personally wake up at 3 because I meditate from 3 to 6. The rest of the family wakes up at 6. They join me in the meditation room. We have a room with some nice chairs in there. There's a fire. It's just a very relaxing room. And the first thing, nobody gets their phone, nobody gets anything. The first thing that we do is 15-minute meditation as a family.
Beautiful.
After that, we do meditation, and then we do personal development, then we do spiritual development. And that gives you everything you need in your mind to start the day in a positive way. And for the spiritual development, I mean, we could just listen to, usually what we do is we listen to YouTube, or we'll do some I am, affirmations or something like that. I am going to have a good day today. I am strong. We're putting positive thoughts, and we do gratitude and thanks and all of that stuff in the morning for spiritual development. Then about 20 minutes of personal development. And this could be anything from listening to Simon Sinek, or it could be Jim Rohn, who I love, Anthony Robbins, anybody that's going to help you with a skill of development, personal development, something you're going to learn, either something on leadership, something on how to be a better person, how to understand gratitude. It's more like life training, and that sets the stage for the whole day. So my kids are both homeschooled, and if you look at our life, it's basically exactly opposite of 99.9% of the population's life. Like, as an entrepreneurial family, I've always, brought the kids to the office, and they've learned coding, and they've learned all kinds of other stuff. And it's hard, though, because most entrepreneurs, we have a tendency to be flying business class everywhere, sometimes private jets, staying in the 5-star hotels everywhere we go. So it's hard for our kids not to be spoiled or entitled. But what I've found works really, really good for that is the spiritual and the personal development. The other thing that I would, if I had to pick like a few things to relieve the stress, like you said, and especially addressing what's going on right now, mindfulness, living in the present moment. I have to continually learn this because there's times, especially with a lot of times actually with entrepreneurs, where I might pick my kid up and from guitar practice or something, I'm driving home, and here he's telling me, he's so excited, and he's telling me all about his lesson, his guitar, and the songs that he played and all this. And I drive in, and he's like, "So what do you think about that, Dad?" And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't hear a word he said."
Yeah.
We were just
I think
talking
we can
about
all
that
identify
yesterday.
with that.
Like,
I mean, and so it's one of the, it's really sad, but it's like every entrepreneur and successful person I know has ADD. Like, I don't think it's a bad thing, right? Because our minds just work 1,000,000 miles an hour. So the hardest thing for entrepreneurs is to be able to be mindful of the present moment. And that means we're just stop thinking of everything else that you're thinking of and just focus on that person and listen to what they're saying and be attentive. And for children, that they just want to be heard, really. I mean, that's kind of one of the greatest secrets with kids is just they want you to slow down. They love watching you, and kids will soak in everything you do. They will watch everything you do. They listen to everything that you do. They watch what you eat. Like, absolutely. I delivered both of my kids myself in the bedroom. I didn't even want them going to a hospital. I did an ozone bath. It was the most peaceful experience. They've never had a Coke in their entire life. I mean, I know some people call me crazy, but you know what? Sugar is a poison for kids, and so is gluten, and so is a lot of the toxic food and excitotoxins and food dyes and all that stuff. And kids are just being bombarded with all this stuff. And it's and that creates, because kids' bodies are very sensitive to all these things, and they get leaky gut, and that leaks through, and your intestines are completely 100% associated with your neurological system. And, a lot of people blame kids for being angry or throwing temper tantrums or saying the wrong things, when really it's what you're feeding them, or it's the environment that they're in, or it's some other issue that can be addressed. Right. That's kind of going around what your original.
But us as parents have to take responsibility for that.
Because I remember learning a lot of this with Daniel when I was pregnant with my first. I promised myself to not eat any junk. Obviously, I didn't know about the too much meat. That
we're still meat eaters,
but I didn't have any junk. Like, I didn't have any. Sometimes I like to have ice cream. I didn't have any junk because I wanted to train his taste buds. Like, as he's never had a Coke, he's never had a soda. He doesn't really know what candy is. So
we had some organic gummy bears here and there, but that's not as far as you.
Well, I was a huge meat eater too, and I actually became a vegetarian over time just because I was having stomach issues. I mean, I grew up in Louisiana, and so we were just like constantly, eating meat and everything else. But right now, considering what we're going through with the entrepreneurial parents that are stuck at home, that are quarantined, that don't necessarily have good relations. I mean, families, like you said, their suicide rates are up, families are breaking up. They're not used to being together as a family. And that just shows you how separated that most families actually are. And it's really sad, but it's almost sometimes when I look at some of the reasons why, if you look at some of the things that have been marketed to people, the propaganda that's out there, it was almost designed to kind of separate families to a certain degree. And we really need to get back to those family values. Yeah. Right now, what I'm telling people to do is, this is the time, because of stress and fear and anxiety, this is the time to take advantage of being with your family and thinking about what you can do to improve. And I actually am a big fan of a coach, like a family coach, not a counselor, because you don't need to say, oh yeah, I need family therapy or anything like that. But
right.
we can all use coaching. And I'm a fan of neuro-linguistic programming, and we have a coach, a family coach that we talk to maybe once every month, once every couple of months. And it's more like, it's really effective for the kids, really, because the kids sometimes, especially when they get up to 10, 11, 12, 13, you know, my kids are 13 and 11, so both boys, and I've noticed a huge difference once they, you know, hit 11. Those hormones start kicking in, the negotiation skills, the little things they do to try to weasel around what you're trying to say, or you know, hacking into your phones and stuff. And I mean, I'm like, what? But it's the information that you give your kids and you let your kids watch these days that determine who they are. And it's really sad that, and that's why we kind of it's sad that we kind of had to separate ourselves, because we have a whole nother belief system than the majority of people that were when my kids were in school, and their friends that they're hanging around with and all that, you know, because just straight up, like, we're truth seekers, right? I mean, and only a certain percentage of the population are truth seekers, and the other percent of the population believe everything they hear on the news, which is all propaganda anyway. If you know, from, I don't know if you've seen Out of Shadows, but it's Project Mockingbird and all the propaganda to you know, desensitize us and everything else, and all the things they do in school. And so we wanted, you know, we kind of felt isolated. Plus my kids were vegetarians, and they made them sit at a whole nother table. And I mean, it was just, it was getting to the point where, you know, what we're doing is actually 10 to 15 years ahead of its time. I mean, but it's actually simple, right? It's like, okay, I'd like to eat clean food. I like to drink clean water. I mean, but we're labeled as, you know, like quacks and all this stuff for talking about that we don't like prescription medications. My kids have never been to the doctor, but I understand that when a fever, we learned this with our cancer research, because we were using hyperthermia, injecting needles into cancer tumors and heating them up to 106, 107 degrees. And the cancer tumor, the cells would die. So that led us into more research into looking into fevers. And what have we been taught? We've been taught that as soon as we have a fever, or as soon as our kid has a fever, we have to reduce the fever.
Oh my gosh, we argued about this, because I'm like, no. He's like, Tylenol. Well, I'm like, no, breast milk.
I never know. That's how I grew up. You know, that's how I never known anything different. And when I started, she made me read a few articles and watch a few things on YouTube, and I started to realize that, yes, I mean, it just made sense when you actually read the material that was out there. It made sense that what the fever was doing for the body.
I was so protective. We fought. I remember that,
and I
fight.
Lost.
Well, that's my whole point of being a truth seeker, and not just looking at the first layer, but doing your own research and going deeper and deeper and deeper. I can remember one incident where one of my sons had a fever, and it kept going up, and it was 102, and this was my challenging part. And then it went to 103, and then it went to 104, and he was sweating. And at that point I was like, you know, that started coming back into me, all the things that I was taught, you know, reduce the fever. And I told my wife, I said, just go put some ice in the bathtub and put some cold water in there if we need to. If it gets to 106 or something or above that, we're going to go ahead and just cool them off just to be on the safe side. And the strangest thing happened, because at that point I was taking his temperature like every 5 seconds, right?
Yeah.
When his temperature got to 106, the next time I swiped that thing across his head, the temperature reader, it was 104. So basically what happened was his temperature went to 106, and then it only stayed there for like 2 seconds, and then it dropped back down to 104. And then I did it again, and it was 106.4. And then I did it again, and it went back down to 104.3. And it did that like 4 or 5 times. And then all of a sudden, within 10 minutes, it dropped all the way down to 98.6. And it was miraculous. Like, he got up and he was a brand new kid again. And I watched the body work. It's magic. It was so amazing, because, and you can look at any type of bacteria, virus, any microbe, and you're going to see that they all die at temperatures up to 106, right?
Right.
So why wouldn't you allow the body to go up to that temperature range to kill everything off? But these are the things that have been ingrained in our heads for years and years and years. That's hard to get out of our minds, you know.
Mhm.
But what I always suggest is, like, the number one thing is all conditions are from a toxic internal environment or a toxic external environment. And so anytime you want to change anything in your family, in your life, in your relationship, in your and just for success or to better everything, like, we should all be trying to improve 1% every single day with our kids and with our spouse and with our friends and our family. I mean, you really can break it down into your work, your personal life, your social life, and your spiritual life.
Mhm.
Right.
And, you know, but as entrepreneurs, I mean, and talking to a lot of entrepreneurs, there's no such thing really as a complete balance of all those at all times.
Right.
Yeah.
You're either going to be working 20 hours a day on your business for 2 or 3 months, putting a deal together, and then you might take a break and work with your be with your family for a while. But as long as you're cleaning up your environment and you're preventing all the things that are going to cause the stresses and cause the disruptions, then you're making progress. And right now, my top things are, with everybody being quarantined, is work on cleaning up your home. You know, work on cooking together as a family. Work on, you have a beautiful opportunity to better a lot of things. You would be absolutely amazed, or most people would be amazed, if what can happen just by transforming their home into a clean and green environment, and making sure you're drinking pure, clean water, and making sure that you're breathing pure, clean air, and doing the meditation and mindfulness. And I'll tell you another thing that really helps too, is talking about mindfulness, is when you're eating.
Well, this
You know,
helped me. This is going to be good. This helped me. It's so
cooking
simple, but-
is actually so therapeutic, and cooking as a family is so therapeutic, and it really can be a stress relief. Think about this. Most people eat in a sympathetic state, and that's a fight or flight response. A parasympathetic is when you're calm and you can digest your food easily. You're not under a lot of stress. You're not under a lot of anxiety. Sympathetic is what we're pretty much, the whole world is in right now. Fear, anxiety, stress, anger, mood swings, everything else like that. When you eat in that kind of a state, which means you eat while you're looking at your computer screen, or you eat while you have your phone in your hand, or you have the TV on in the background or whatever, your digestion comes to a stop. And this is really big for kids. Like, it's super important for kids to eat in a parasympathetic state, because if they don't, the proteins turn putrefactic, the fats turn rancid, and the carbohydrates ferment inside their system. And then they can have all kinds of additional, situations happen. So, putting on some nice music, maybe some candles, doing 9 deep breaths, everybody's sitting around at the table, blessing their food, putting good energy in their food. This is another thing I talk about when I talk about how to raise your vibrations, your healing vibrations, is when you do a Wim Hof or when you do 9 deep breaths, your vibrations automatically rise. And when you do that, when you go into that parasympathetic state, you can put your energy into your food. And that actually is being mindful. And being mindful, it's called mindful eating. Mindful eating means you're not thinking of anything else but your family and your food and the gratefulness of being in that moment at that particular time. Everything else in your mind is gone. Your awareness is in the present moment. For example, you have an apple, let's say. You hold that apple and you look at that apple and you actually notice the different colors of red on it. You notice maybe the golden stripes in there. You notice the weight of the apple. You may close your eyes and picture the tree that the apple was growing on, maybe the flower and the bees coming over there to pollinate it, and then it growing from a small apple to a big apple, and then the apple being picked and traveling all the way to the supermarket, and then you go get the apple, and now that whole life is now in your hands. And as you're doing that, you're putting energy and love into that apple. That apple is becoming something that is going to provide you with like a sunburst of energy when you eat it. And then you're thanking the apple. And then you take the bite of the apple and you're noticing, you're chewing it very slowly, and you're noticing the flavors and the more flavors. And you're not chewing 2 bites and swallowing it like people do, but you're chewing it until it's a liquid. And then you swallow it down. And if you do that, you can literally feel the energy and the light and the vibrations going down into your stomach. That's mindful eating. Like it's a whole nother paradigm of how we live our life and how we eat right now.
Yeah.
And you'll notice amazing things, and you'll notice amazing things happen with your children too. And when you teach your children how to be mindful.
I'm the worst. I'm an inhaler.
We used to inhale our food.
If that means anything.
With my chronic ulcers, and I didn't think about it because I was like, I'm not really, like, I'm doing a pretty good job with my stress and stuff. But when it comes to eating, I
think
started
it's time constraints.
fearing my food. Like, is this going to hurt me? Is this going to give me, like, I started fearing my food, and I didn't really notice that that's what I was doing. So when I heard you talk about this, I was like, I implemented it right away. I tried it, and kids are so good at it. Like I was telling Dan the other day, like that's what kids, we almost have to put ourselves in like a childhood state where we rediscover everything. Like they're the ones that say, wow, it's such a beautiful day. And you're like, wow, like, why are we taking this stuff for granted?
And we don't even think about, it's like, when's the last time we said that? He's saying it more than we do.
Yeah. So rediscovering the way that you described eating that apple, that's what I've been doing. And I feel like that's helped me. Like,
is there something wrong with inhaling your food?
Yeah.
Is that a bad?
Yeah, there's a lot wrong with inhaling your food. And trust me, I mean, it happens to all of us. But the deal is, if you can try to live by the 80-20 rule, that's great. I try to live by the 90-10 rule. And that means just trying your best, at everything 80% of the time, and leaving that 20% or leaving that 10% for the times that you don't have time for it, or you're going to have to eat out over here.
Right.
I mean, considering, like, we looked at the general population a couple years ago, and as far as all of those factors, how they eat, their stress levels, their, happiness at work and all that. And this, believe it or not, most people live by the 10-90 rule. Like 90% of the stuff they're doing wrong, only 10% they're doing right. So, I mean, we at least have the advantage of doing that, but you're going to have times where you just don't, you're busy, you're thinking, you're trying to do the best that you can, but that's okay, because as long as you're doing 80% right, your body's threshold that we talked about from the toxins and the chemicals and the damage from stress and all that, as long as you're doing most of the time, you're doing good, and you're meditating, and you're paying attention to yourself, because a lot of times we as entrepreneurs don't pay a lot of attention to ourselves as much. I think now more and more, which is good, with the routines, making sure you go to the gym, making sure you drink enough water, all that stuff. But I would say that the energy that I keep coming back to energy because I've been studying it so much. Your energy resonates from your body, and it can resonate, 10, 15, 20 feet. So even a strange technique that I used to use when my kids were upset and crying and just having temper tantrums and all that, was I was experimenting with that. I would literally take them and I would go into a room and I would sit down in a chair and I would sit them down, or I would even hold them. And I would just do deep breathing exercises, even if they were yelling and screaming in my arms, and I would just start meditating. And the energy would resonate from me through them. And within a minute, sometimes like even before that, they would just immediately calm down. And then I would just continue And now they know if they're upset or anything, they can go outside and hug a tree, or they can, because that works too, believe it or not. I tried that method. I was like, hey, why don't you just go hug a tree, you know? And then it actually worked. They would sit over there and hug it. And then like after about 2 or 3 minutes, they would be happy again and they would come back in. I was like, oh, that's awesome. So now they just, like, if they get upset or they get angry or they're brothers and they fight with each other, you know, they'll just go and they'll, you know, meditate, or they'll go outside and walk, or they'll ground themselves. And they will, you know, calm themselves down.
Yeah, that energy is so true with everything. I mean, even when we go and you have a meeting with somebody, if you have the right energy about yourself and you go into that meeting with that right energy, that it you know, it comes off of you and it emanates through that whole experience. And I've seen that in my life. And I think I really started noticing it when I watched that movie, The Secret.
Yeah.
And I kind of, you know, as much, you know, it's, you know, some of the stuff's hard to take in The Secret, but, and I don't maybe totally agree with everything, but I do agree that that mindfulness of putting yourself in the right place, and that it comes off of you, and that those experiences and people that you deal with throughout the day can steer your everything in the wrong direction or everything in the right direction, and being in the right frame of mind helps do that. One of the things I really wanted to ask you about was our kids. You know, I think everybody, and it's great that you let people off the hook a little bit with the 80-20 rule, because from somebody who was able to have their kids at home, I know it's a lot to live up to for our listeners. But you know, what are the things what are 5 supplements that we could be giving our kids to, you know, help better them throughout the day?
So, yeah, great question. I get that question all the time. So the supplements that I use, if I was going to pick the top 5, would be a good carbon-based multivitamin.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think kids should be taking handfuls of vitamins, and definitely not really taking the gummies, because the gummies, most of them have just sugar. You're not barely getting any vitamins out of there.
Absolutely.
And then they're just going to end up with all kinds of teeth problems and gum issues and stuff like that. I personally use the product Intramax. It's not a product that I produce. It's made by, I know the guy that does it. Mm-hmm. He's awesome. To me, I haven't found a better supplement out there than that.
Is it a liquid vitamin or
It's a liquid vitamin. It's called Intramax, and the way he has it is carbon bonded. It's got pretty much everything in there that they need. What I really like about it is it's absorbed really, really well, and that's actually the multivitamin that I take too. But I can tell you that there is one secret nutrient that is my favorite, that is most people are not familiar with. And it's the most important thing to give the pregnant women, and the most important thing that all kids should be on, and that's iodine.
Yeah, iodine. Can you go into that? Because
yes.
I don't have thyroid problems, but I remember out in Canada, a naturopath said, "Are you taking iodine? Because you should be," and I wasn't.
Right.
And every single one, you have a good one.
Every single person should be taking iodine. And this is kind of one of the deep, dark secrets of the medical profession, and why they have even most of the iodized salt has been taken off the market, and most of the research. Medical.
Explain what iodine is for, like, when I think of iodine, I think of, like, isn't that something we used to put on wounds when we got cut or something?
Yeah, it is actually. So that would be more of like an iodine. Well, speaking of, you know, the reason you put it on cuts is because it's the most powerful antiseptic. There's no virus, there's no bacteria, there's no fungus, there's nothing that can live in an iodine environment. And that's also another reason why iodine is so effective against any type of, let's say, harmful microorganisms that we might be dealing with right now and everything else. So there's multiple different types of iodine. I'm glad you asked that question. So that would be a regular type of iodine that you would use for the skin, to disinfect the skin.
So don't eat that, guys.
What I'm talking about is the natural plant-based form of iodine that is utilized by every cell in the body. It's utilized by the reproductive system. And more importantly, it is the main secret nutrient that gives you brain health, that stimulates your metabolism, that can prevent you from getting sick or ill, that can regenerate your body. all types of ovarian cysts, reproductive infertility. The majority of that is a severe iodine deficiency, as well as fibrocystic breast disease, prostate. I mean, basically you can link every single condition, disease to an iodine deficiency. When I was doing the research into it, and this would be nascent iodine, it has to be detoxified, it has to be manufactured in a specific form, just like you would receive it in a plant, so you can take it internally.
Is it a plant-based product?
It's not, because it's not plant-based, because there's just not enough of it in plants. You can't get enough of it. Literally, you would have to eat 30, 40, 50 pounds of seaweed a day to get the iodine that you would need to sustain the amount that you currently need for healthy tissue and healthy organs in your system. What really brought me is all my spiritual research. I've always been like, I want to be able to challenge myself, and reading all different types of spiritual books from all over the world and from India, and researching all different types of spirituality and ways to transcend. And there's that's something that I've always wanted to do, is be able to leave my body and go up to the different planes and see what's up there, and try to find out the truth behind the kingdom of heaven is within and all that. But it was weird how that led me down a weird path, because that's the third eye, and that's your pineal gland. Your pineal gland is
we're
basically
hearing a lot about that
third
lately.
eye in the middle, like right where your ears are. If you draw a line, and then directly behind in the middle of your eyes, you have a small gland called the pineal gland. And in the monks, they actually, during the autopsies, they dissect that, and there's a small crystal inside of it. I actually have a crystal right here from a pineal gland. And so we actually have a crystal, and that's how our communication, right, with God, is through that. So what happened was, let's just say individuals knew that a long time ago, and figured out a way to calcify our pineal gland so we would lose our connection, our spiritual connection. It's another reason why the indigos and all these spiritual children are being put on ADD and psychiatric medications, because it calcifies their pineal, and they know that they're highly spiritual, just like you guys are highly spiritual, indigo children. You know, we just know that we're different in many different ways. And so when I found that information out, and guess what calcifies the pineal gland? Fluoride, bromide, and chlorine.
All the
where
bad
it is?
things.
Everywhere, right?
Right.
And guess what? The only thing out there is that decalcifies the pineal gland.
Iodine? Wow.
Because it's a halogen. It's in the halogen field. And so that, I'm not going to get into conspiracy theories, but let's just say that was done on purpose. And my big thing now is awakening, teaching people how to awaken themselves, awaken the masses. And you can do that through detoxification, through fasting, through cleansing, and through taking iodine. So iodine, if you look at the number 1 or 2 causes of mental retardation, or why kids aren't that smart, factoring out all the other chemicals and toxins, iodine is the number 1 reason for that. If you put children on iodine, they will be like Einstein, like they will be super intelligent, and you just need a couple drops, a day, or just even a few drops a couple times a week. So
now, how would you suggest to give it to the children? Because I know you can take it, orally, the drops. Can you just drop it right in water? Is that the best way for a
You can put it in juice. You can put it in milk. I mean, breast milk. I'm not a big fan of processed, feeding kids processed milk and dairy, because it just causes inflammation and excess mucus. I mean, almond milk, hemp milk, stuff like that's good. You can put it in anything. I mean, my kids just take it internally, just right on their tongue, but it might be a little strong. So as a preventative, it's something that is the ultimate nutrient. So I would highly recommend that. The next thing besides the multi and iodine is, I'm a big fan of gut health. And this is one of the biggest situations that I find with everybody who's sick, all the kids that have mental, like and by the way, when I talk about the pineal gland on kids, they are prescribing psychiatric medication to children now as early as even mothers with children in the womb. And guess what? Most of the bipolar medication, the anxiety medication, all of this psychology medication is made of fluoride and bromide derivatives. So they're
Wow.
poisoning the kids. And that's also what's causing a bunch of suicides in children. Like I had a report the other day of a 5-year-old kid that got put on medications and slaughtered the family pet, the dog.
Oh man.
I mean, 11-year-old girl hung herself after being on antipsychotic medications for 7 days. This is real. Like, this is what's happening right now in society. And these are huge things. That can be a whole nother show we can talk about.
Yes.
Is how to address emotional issues with children and how to, treat them naturally and not get them on any type of medications. But
Right.
going back to the one thing that heals all is the gut. Because ultimately that's where all the chemicals and toxins enter your body. I mean, yes, you might get some through the skin, you might get some through the lungs that you breathe in, but ultimately like 90% of the chemicals and toxins are going to enter through your gut. So my third tip for right now and always with children is to give them good probiotics. Make sure that you're feeding that gut microbiome with good food, with good water. You're avoiding any of the things that are going to cause overgrowth, like excess sugar and things like that, and processed foods. And with them being on good probiotics, that's going to really help also with the amount of stress that they're under. There's a neurological link between the gut and the brain. And anybody who comes to me and says, I'm going through mood swings, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, it's like, well, your gut's out of balance. It's amazing when you balance the gut microbiome, how the brain works and how the brain functions. And even talking about entrepreneurs, like entrepreneurs, most of them have horrible guts. They drink coffee all day long.
Yeah.
They go out for these huge lunches and meetings. They go out for these late dinners and drink bottles of wine and eat desserts and eat a bunch of steak. And then they go to bed on a full stomach and their gut is intensely horribly, ruined. So probiotics. The next thing is vitamin D. It's important to make sure that your children take vitamin D. Vitamin D is just an all-around vitamin. I mean, all this slathering on sunscreen and not allowing your body to produce vitamin D, a lot of that is because of the geoengineering projects that have been going on and all the spraying that they've been doing in the air that are blocking the rays for you to actually produce vitamin D. So vitamin D is really important. It's a great, like, let's say adaptogen. It just stabilizes everything. So that's one that I recommend for kids. And then the last one, which has to do with the gut as well, is oxy powder. And that was Nikola Tesla's original formula. And that is, you don't have to give it to them all the time, but children need to cleanse too, just like adults, just like the earth cleanses itself. And that's a very gentle, easy, oxygen-based intestinal cleanse. And we do it on our kids maybe once every couple of weeks. They can take a cap. When they're going to be around for a bathroom on a Saturday or a Sunday, we'll give them a couple pills of oxy powder and just let it naturally release all that oxygen into their intestines and clean and oxidize and chew up all that hard compacted stuff. And it just flushes them out and cleanses them out.
Okay. And at what age would you say is a good time to start with the oxy powder?
Oh, we've had even pregnant women use it. Pregnant women are constipated all the time. And then even when breastfeeding, like children, even breastfeeding children get constipated sometimes. So the mothers can take it and some of it will actually come through the breast milk. Or you can, if the child is, starting on baby food, you can actually mix some in with the baby food as well. So you can start them on that, as early as possible, and it works great. There's nothing, disrupting is to see your poor baby sitting there suffering and crying with colic or with constipation and can't go to the bathroom and just yelling out, help me, mom, help me, dad.
Oh my gosh. We've been lucky. We've never experienced that with our kids, but I know a lot of moms that are my friends, they deal with this all the time, constipation. And And that's good to know because they're reaching out to
Because
supplements and pharmaceuticals, which I just don't see that being the solution.
yeah,
at
Xlax
all.
is not the
No.
answer.
No.
What's some of the things? We're all spending so much time in our houses now. We're obviously surrounded by all these electronics. What are some of the things we can all do at
Just
home
real
as
quick,
entrepreneurs?
because he was going over the vitamins. Those are all things we should be taking as well. All like that list for the children, it sounds like that's a lot of things we should be taking. Is there anything specific that you would add to the list for adults? And even, you know, there's a lot of entrepreneurs that I talk to that are females, that are women, they're it sounds like everybody's having a baby right now or is breastfeeding. So just real quick, I wanted to add to that list one for the entrepreneurs, and then, you know, the women that have just had babies or are pregnant, anything, oils, anything, just real quick.
Well, okay. So there's two different ways to look at, you know, like things you need, and then which would be external things that you're taking to treat like maybe some symptoms or addressing the root cause. And I didn't have a chance to get into this, but this is a great lead in because all of our research, it led to one thing, like the doctors that we're having. So I'm going to give you the secret to health right now, the secret that any person in the world can do. And
all right, hold on, everybody. Here we go.
Pens out.
So this is the culmination of everything, right? All disease and all health starts in the gut. And we talked about all the chemicals and toxins coming in. So one thing that when we evaluated all the research that we learned from the doctors that had the most success rate is what they were doing was they were always cleansing the body first before they started giving any supplements out. And here's the secret. Like what we found, what worked the best, and we actually kind of developed this over the years, is always start with an intestinal cleanse and health, which means, because that's where everything starts, right?
That makes sense.
So we developed a system which basically is common sense that goes back to the ancient times that we forgot, right? That will heal every single condition and every single disease. And it starts with cleansing and healing the gut, okay? And we use probiotics and oxy powder for that. And then the next thing that we didn't talk about, which is a really root cause of what all the health conditions that we're seeing and all of the fatigue and everything from the entrepreneurs, is liver. Right now, I would say 99% of the population's liver is only working at 15%. So then after we cleanse and heal the gut and the intestines, we do the liver cleanse and we clean and heal the liver. So you're asking, what can entrepreneurs do? What can parents do? The first step, cleanse, and their life will completely change. They'll start losing weight again. Like every condition they're suffering from will completely go away. What we found though is that one liver cleanse in most people doesn't only heals 15% of the liver. So you need your liver working at 80% or above to be in perfect health. Remember when you were 16, when you looked in the mirror and everything was going perfect and you were like so self-confident?
Yeah, we all want that back.
Yeah. That's because your liver wasn't congested, your bowel wasn't congested. So here's the secret. Like we take in all these chemicals and all this stuff for 40, 50 years, and we never cleaned it out. Like, can you imagine what your kitchen would look like, what your house would look like if you never cleaned it in 40 years?
Yeah.
So we found this out kind of just by doing over 400,000 liver cleanses and cleansing on people in the last 20 years. We do the intestinal and gut health program, then we do the liver cleansing. And then the next thing we found was that everybody has so many toxic organisms in their body. They're full of fungus, they're full of mold, they're full of bacteria, they're full of viruses, they're full of mycoplasms. Every single condition we tested, we found all kinds of parasites in people, whether it was cancer, whether it was diabetes, whether it was low energy, it didn't matter. So the third step was we got to clean all of those harmful organisms out of the body, because people are consuming things that creates an acid environment in their body, and organisms thrive in an acid type environment.
Right.
So we had to get all that out, because the harmful organisms, they secrete isopropyl alcohol, formaldehyde,
like H. pylori,
all of these chemicals, these hardcore acids and chemicals in your body. And you could be juicing. Like we have people that were like doing 21-day juice fasts and all that, but they never cleaned the parasites and the harmful organisms out of their body. And they were feeding on the juice too and secreting all those toxins back into the system. So intestinal, liver, and gallbladder, getting all the harmful organisms out of the body. And the last step was cleaning all the chemicals and heavy metals out of the body. And what we found was probably like we would put, no matter if you came to us for whatever health condition you had, always, before we started, we would put you through an intestinal cleanse and gut health program, liver cleanse, clean all the parasites and harmful organisms out of your body, and then clean all the chemicals and heavy metals out of your body. A deep cleanse. Now you can do that with water-only fasting too, but it's going to be a lot more difficult. So all we're doing is giving your body, we're just taking all the stuff out of your body that you've accumulated for so many years, and we're just reactivating the body's self-healing mechanism. See, that's the mistake that all the naturopathic doctors and all these doctors, these natural doctors are making. They never take 2 steps back before they go 2 steps forward. They never clean you out. And that, if you understand the root cause of all health problems is nothing more than toxic buildup inside your system, it's common sense that the first thing you do is get rid of all that.
Right.
And so that's why we developed all these cleansing programs. And what we noticed was all their conditions would magically go away after they were done with the chemical and heavy metal cleansing. So if I could recommend, especially to the entrepreneurs, get all the junk out of your system. You know, implement these programs. Like we work with companies where we come in and change the environment, put organic food in the, for there. They do meditation techniques in the morning. We change the lighting from fluorescent to full spectrum. We do put air purification systems in there. They go through cleansing programs. I mean, unbelievable.
That's so smart.
Increase the productivity by 25, 35, 45, 50% just by implementing some of these things into a business. But it's the same thing at home. Like now is a perfect time for families to be cleansing. I mean, there's no better time. Because now you have the time to do an intestinal cleanse, a liver cleanse, and all that stuff. And then when you do that, then you're going to feel 16 again. Because health equals self-confidence, and self-confidence equals success. And that's the ultimate, right? As an entrepreneur, you want to be a successful mother. You want to be a successful father. You want to be a successful company owner. You want to be a successful teacher. You want to be a successful everything. So in order for you to be that successful mentor, that successful teacher, that successful entrepreneur, you have to lead by example, and then you have to teach, and you have to give people the tools and the methods that you learned also, so they can be successful. So ultimately, your question, what would I recommend? Yes, it's always good to take some basic supplements, but honestly, after looking at every single thing, there's nothing more effective to bring the body back into balance than to do those cleanses and then avoid the chemicals and toxins coming back into your body. Looking at all the things in your kitchen, looking at all the things in your bathroom, looking at all those toxic stuff that you might have in your system, in your environment, your external environment, and cleaning that up too. So in all honesty, like a really good doctor is not even a doctor. A really good doctor is an environmental toxicologist, because it's identifying all the things that can cause you damage in your body, and then,
that can start it,
and then cleansing it all out. I mean, the earth cleanses itself. The animals cleanse themselves on a regular basis. We clean everything else except our bodies.
Right.
But it's meant to be that way. So anyway, after all these years, I still come back to the simplicity of cleansing and healing the gut, the liver, the harmful organisms out, and the chemicals and heavy metals out. And that just does amazing things to expand your life, your life as well. I mean, talk about anti-aging. you just completely cleanse all that stuff out of your system, and you
Nice.
fast for 1 day a week, or you do a little bit of fasting. That really extends your life.
I know you talk a lot about a water cleanse, and that's really interesting to me. You have a book actually coming out about the cleanse. What are there other types of cleanses out there that you recommend?
We just covered that.
There are a lot of different cleanses out there. I mean, like any type of cleanse is good, really. In reality, if you're doing anything, it just, of course, make sure it's good quality, it's organic, it's non-GMO, it's going to help you. Juice fasting is a way to cleanse.
Right.
The grape fast is a great cleanse. Yes, I have a book right now coming out. It's called The Power of Fasting. And I talk about what is fasting, the history of fasting, why it was used. We didn't have medicine way back when. All they talk about 40 days of fasting. Every religious book or culture talks about the benefits of fasting and how it completely heals your body, because when you shut down your digestive tract, your body goes into what's called autophagy on a water-only fast, and it starts regenerating your body. USC, believe it or not, came out with a study a year ago. They did a 72-hour water fast on people, and what they found was shocking. It regenerated your immune system and produced white blood cells and immune stem cells in 72 hours, right? So that should mean that if any of us ever get sick, we just fast on water for 72 hours, right? And we regenerate our immune system and produce immune stem cells.
Wow, I think I'm really going to try that. I'm sorry for misquoting your book also. Yeah, it was on fasting, not on cleansing. But yeah, I mean, that's so, the more I hear you talk about this water cleanse, I hear, and people, how far can you actually take a water cleanse?
I would not recommend. So here's the thing. You can get the same results as, let's say, if you were to do an 18-day water only fast, which means nothing. That's what I did. I have a mini documentary on YouTube of me going through all 18 days, talking about it, all that stuff.
Right.
The studies show that an 18-day water only fast will reverse your age in half. So that means if you're 40 years old and you do an 18-day water-only fast, all your organs and everything in your body will, at the end of the 18 days, will now be 20 years old. You will reduce your age.
Well, sign me up for that.
Well, actually, Gandhi used to fast 1 day a week, and he used to fast for 9 days every year. And when he died, when they did the autopsy, they said all of his internal organs and his biochemistry, everything was half of his age.
Wow.
So
can I do, like, for me, I'm breastfeeding and I'm facing those, the challenges that we talked about. Can I do the 1 day a week? I know we're looking at the intermittent fasting, but can I do 1 day a week?
For you, breastfeeding, I would not recommend it. What I was going to say is, doing the other types of cleanses that are a lot easier, because when you do a water only fast, especially a long-term one, you can't work, and you need to be in because you don't want to utilize your energy, and you don't want to be stressed. You don't want to be dealing with situations. It's more like you take that time off and you focus on yourself, and you do lots of meditation, and you're focusing on regenerating your body. When I did my 18-day water fast, the hurricane hit Houston. I was stuck, and I was like, everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. Like, it was intense. And I was working out for the first 7 days, which I would not definitely recommend anybody do. However, you made a good point about intermittent fasting. One of my big recommendations on how you can slow down the aging is just skip one meal every single day. And that's really important, because the studies show that we eat way too much. Like, we eat 10 times the amount of food that our body actually needs to survive. Because we're not eating enough live food either, enough energetic food. So we just have to keep eating and eating and eating, and eating's become a social thing. Yeah, that was really intense for me. Like, I realized I have a whole new appreciation for food. Like, you take food away from you for 18 days. I realized, like, how much of your life actually revolves around food.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Crazy. crazy.
It's hard to be around anybody at that point too, I'm sure. I bet you had a difficult time. I mean, everybody's eating constantly, so it's either breakfast, lunch, or dinner, and you're trying not to even look at food, I'm guessing, at that moment. What were you doing? Were you sitting down at the table with the family at that time, or how did you handle that?
Yeah, it was tough. I mean, I put my family through some crazy things.
I bet. She won't even let me do it. She told me, I said yesterday, I said, I'm thinking about doing this. I saw the water fasting. I said, I think about doing this water fast. And she said, you'll never do a water fast while you're with me.
He's just so cranky even when he starts to juice. And I'm like, dude, no, I can't put up with that temper.
No, I mean, I tell you what, you'll be fine if I'll send you everything you need to do an intestinal cleanse, to do a liver cleanse, do a parasite cleanse, and then do a chemical and heavy metal cleanse.
Let's
and you
start
do
with
that.
the
And you can the beautiful thing about that is you don't have to take time off of work. Okay. That's why I designed it.
That's beautiful.
That's what we need.
Because I mean, honestly, the business leaders and the entrepreneurs, it's gotten better over the years because there's more health. But really, it's the leaders like us that are out there and the influencers out there that people are begging for how they can live a better life and how they can be more mindful and how they can take better care of their kids and how they can, live a healthy lifestyle. I mean, this is a perfect time to be getting this information out there.
Mm-hmm. Now, we had a question about EMFs.
The EMFs.
As entrepreneurs, we have all these devices and we're pretty good about not putting the kids on any devices or anything like that. But still, some people, they have their kids at home, and let's go into that a little bit. EMFs and radiation, and
spend a lot of time looking at, especially with my kids, like I wouldn't even let them go through, I've never been through a body scanner at the airport, and I never will.
Yeah.
I never would let my kids go through a body scanner at the airport. I started screaming about EMFs.
Wait, isn't it illegal in some countries, the body scanning? Like it's not even legal in certain countries. Like it's unfortunate.
I think you're right on that. I haven't been to a country, I don't think, that didn't have one, but you might be right on that. And that's a good country that we might all be moving to pretty soon. But when cell phones came out, and even before that with radios, we started studying when Masaru Emoto did his research on water, the messages of water. And I'm a big fan of water and structured water, and because that's all we are, is we're water. We're living, and water is a living entity. When he did his research, and he said one of the most damaging things that he saw was when he put a vial of water in front of a TV. And he said, when your water is exposed to electromagnetic frequencies, it never forms back into a crystal if it's continually exposed to electromagnetic frequencies.
Wow.
And people living in high rises that aren't grounded to the ground, that are sleeping on the second floor of a house, they're going to have electromagnetic frequencies. I had a cancer patient. He was a 19-year-old kid that had testicular cancer, and we couldn't figure out, I'm talking about geopathical electromagnetic or frequencies as well from the earth.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So all this is under the umbrella of, let's just say, negative or disruptive frequencies to our natural positive frequencies. They disrupt and they create an imbalance within our system. Mm-hmm. We couldn't figure out what was causing. We had him on all kinds of natural things. He wasn't improving like we wanted him to improve. So we actually went to his house, which, by the way, that's another lost art that doctors should do. They should always go evaluate your home and your office and stuff like that. And that's what we did. And we took a meter over there to his house, and right on his bed where he sleeps, where his testicles were, the meter went off the charts. And he had a geopathic stress from the earth coming straight up through his bed, and he had testicular cancer. Oh my God. When we changed and moved all that stuff around, then he started to get better, and he started to get better, and he started to get better. So they're real. Like, our bodies are an energetic body. Our bodies are electromagnetic. We are very sensitive to them. And I can't tell you the countless people that have contacted me from damage from their children, brain tumors. Children's skulls are like very, very susceptible to frequencies. The 5G routers that are being used right now to push out the 5G that are in the homes. Most people have routers in their homes from, some people have from Comcast, and they don't even know that they don't read the fine print, but the internet companies can actually switch your home router into a 5G signal transporting system. And then you have TVs, digital clocks, you have hair dryers. I mean, you have many different things that can create harmful electromagnetic frequencies. The ones that we're worried about the most right now are iPads and phones and stuff that kids are around. And so what we do is we have the chips on them. I'll be happy to share those and give you a PDF on how to completely clean your house.
Yes.
Neutralize all the EMFs. I have a whole little short ebook on that with the products we use. You can give out to all of your followers.
Oh, that'd be great.
That'd be awesome.
And that starts with, you know, getting them out of the bedrooms, and they have special blankets that they can put on. Cause I mean, let's just face it, we're in a digital age. Yeah. Kids are going to be taking courses online. They're not, they're going to be, you know, there's a certain, I also believe that you just can't live in a bubble and you can't take everything away from your kids. Like that was one of the issues that we dealt with, was like all of my kids' friends play freaking video games all day long, you know, especially during this thing. And it's just like,
see, Daniel doesn't know that yet, but he will. So that's a great thing for you to talk about.
And it's just like, it's hard for them to be in a social environment, like, you know, going to birthday parties where all it is just nothing but refined sugar, artificial, you know, colors, like everything, poison. I mean, basically everything is poison. The kids are doing this, they're doing that, and it's just a nightmare. So, you know, we were like, we felt bad because it was like, we can't, what do we do? So then we started bringing our own organic gluten-free cupcakes to the parties. And then we start bringing, you know, are sending our kids with their own lunch. And then they started getting teased about it. You know, it's like, oh, Edward's bringing his own, you know, gluten-free, organic, vegan. You know, and then psychologically, they start thinking, you know, that we're weird, we're the weird family and all that. And so that's why we continually like reinforce by, you know, the shows that they watch, getting them involved and educating kids about health. That's missing from our society, is educating kids. You know, talking about entrepreneurism, like we should be teaching all that, in kids should be learning that. Yes. Not how to work for somebody. Like the Rockefellers are the ones that instituted the learning system because they wanted workers. They wanted people to work, and they wanted them to be trained on specific things. What we should be training we should be training kids on, that's why I'm such a big fan of homeschooling, is, you know, at an early age, how to deal with your emotions, how to listen to your body.
Yes.
How to communicate effectively with somebody.
Absolutely.
How to calm yourself down.
Yeah.
How to, you know, really gel and treat people the right way. How to be grateful. How, you know, leadership. These are all the personal development things that we do. The leadership, all of these things. And now we've seen, even though they complain about it, oh, we got to do PD again, personal development. After about 3 or 4 years, it all started to sink in, and, you know, and then they start coming up with memes like, you know, a good life is a life that, you know, revolves around your attitude, or, you know,
I love it.
You know,
That's great.
They listen, they sink, eventually it sinks into them. So it's really, even though they complain about it, it's really important to like teach them the things that are going to make them successful in their relationships, successful in their life, successful in their own personal life, and things that are going to make them successful in their spiritual life. And that's coming back to that point to where they really, you are the ones that they model after on a daily basis, even though they say, I hate you, Dad, or whatever.
Oh gosh,
you know, and then they yell at you and all that. You know, it's it's, you know, those are those things. Like sometimes we just want to be And we do, actually. I mean, I'm not saying I'm perfect, you know, it's like, it's a constant learning experience for us on a daily thing too, dealing with situations.
Absolutely.
One of my sons, my younger sons, just had a tantrum and started saying like some nasty things to my wife, and I was just like, oh my gosh. And then she was calm, and it's just like, okay, how do we handle this? And the best thing is to try to get everybody out of that heightened emotional state as fast as you can.
Right.
You know, because nobody can accomplish anything when everybody's upset, mad, screaming, yelling. You just have to say, okay, stop. Everybody needs to calm down. We need to talk about this. Go outside for a walk. Go hug a tree. Let's go in and meditate for a little while.
Yeah.
Let's do some deep breathing. Actually, what we've been using Wim Hof, and it works amazing. Okay, let's all do some Wim Hof, and then we'll talk about this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That brings you down.
Absolutely.
I find that
I
with Daniel, the deep
yeah.
breathing.
Deep breathing. We've done that with Daniel.
Helps. It really, really helps.
I like to, I had a friend that said that they used to make their kids, their two boys, they had boys about your age, about the same age difference. And they used to make them hug when they would fight. And that was how it like, oh, okay, you're in trouble. Instead of, you know, getting a spanking or going in the corner, they just had to go hug each other. And they just sat there hugging each other until they were, you know, for like 5 minutes or something, until they were over it. And I was like, yeah, it's pretty hard to be mad when you're sitting there hugging. It almost becomes laughable at some point. I think as they would just start laughing it off.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I mean, it's hugging and just, you know, giving them their space. And you know sometimes what I'll do too is I'll have them write something for me, like it's really good for their writing skills, and I'll just say, you know what, I noticed that you were really angry this morning, and you know, maybe you had a hard time controlling your temper. Your task for today is to write me a 1-page paper on what anger is and how to deal with it, and you know, do some research, watch some videos online, and then write a paper for me. So they'll, you know, you just schedule some time and they'll sit down and they'll, you know, it's as they're watching, they're learning, and they're learning from somebody else, because a lot of times, you know, we don't know what we're talking about because we're mom and dad. And so he'll write a whole report on, you know, how to 10 methods to relieve my anger or something. And just the time from watching and then actually writing it down, it's good for writing class.
That's great.
It's always good. And one other thing I left out that I think is really important is during that personal development time, which is usually 30 minutes in the morning, we all journal. We have a journal with us. And so, you know, let's say a 20 or 30 minute Jim Rohn YouTube video, you know, certain things will stick out and you'll be like, yeah, I can work on that, or I can work on that. And, you know, all you needed to do is we just say you need to just write, you know, 5 or 10 things down in your journal from this morning. And if you didn't get anything out of there, just write anything down in your journal, maybe how you're feeling or whatever.
That's so great.
You know, you can go back and look through that journal and you can see, and it's kind of like you know, it's something you can learn from, and you can, and it's just a piece of history. I also feel like family traditions are really, really, really important. I come from, like, my dad was a workaholic. So the things I remember in my life was like the first day my dad let me mow the yard with the lawnmower. You know, kids don't remember every single day of your life. They remember like special moments, like, or on Sundays where I got to watch the football game with my dad, you know. Thanksgiving was always a big family holiday for us, you know. So Christmas was always like, you know, really special. We would get together with the family. I mean, we would just love that. So what we try to do is create, you know, really strong family bonding over holidays. So like fall, we start putting our decorations out as a family. And then Halloween, we all get together and put our decorations out. And then Easter, when we travel, we always get a Christmas ornament from wherever we are. And now it's like the kids can't wait, and they go pick out the Christmas ornament from here. And then every Christmas, we're all going through, and I still have my ornaments from like 1968 and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They're all falling apart, but it's like memories, and we tell stories about when we were growing up, and oh, my aunt gave me this, and all that. So those are the things that your kids are going to remember, and those are the things that are going to set goals and into their heart, so they'll be good parents, and they'll be good, you know, wives, and they'll understand the importance of family values and holidays and traditions like that. You can have all kinds of traditions. Like we have the Turkey Bowl challenge every year, right? Because my kids love fantasy football. I like football, and so every year during Thanksgiving, you know, there's a bunch of football games on. So we do the whole family does a Turkey Bowl challenge.
Yeah.
And
I think Dallas plays, don't they? Dallas plays every Thanksgiving, don't they?
Yeah. So we put all the kids do it now. They're all excited about it. And they put all the teams, and everybody in the family picks who they think's going to win. And then at the end, there's, you know, after that whole week of games during the Thanksgiving holidays, there's a winner, and they get a trophy.
Oh,
You got one on hand there.
Mine right here from the Turkey Bowl Challenge Championship from 2018. But I mean, these are just memories. I mean,
Yeah, those are great.
My mom was so good at
it's
that.
like and those are just like, that's a bonding time. Those really, really good memories. So, so that's another thing that I found that works really, really good. And then, you know, your kids will want, when they get married and have kids, they'll remember that, and they'll want to get those traditions, and they'll want to come, you know, back to the family.
I try to implement some of the things that I think I did when I was little. So I know exactly how that feels.
Yeah, Daniel just saw a pumpkin out the window, so he's already excited. So you're right. It's about the things that you feel, and he's 4.
But definitely, just to finish up on the EMFs, because I go on tangents. I will definitely send you that PDF, and it's something that's very serious that we really need to take interest in, because it's one of the most damaging things that I see in the future to our health. So
we don't even know everything yet.
I'm still learning. Like, there's little things that I'm doing. I don't know what device I need to buy for the house. I know that there's devices out there that help, and you were talking about the chips. I turn off on our cell phones, the 5G, I turn that off, airplane mode, turn off the Wi-Fi when I don't need to, because we still have Wi-Fi here. And I know that that's not a great thing, but I do turn it off of all the devices. Oh dear. But so is there anything else for I know you're going to send me the PDF, but maybe just 3 things that's a good start for the people that have no idea about this, like
about the EMFs?
Yeah. Like
the easiest thing is to put everything on airplane mode whenever you're not using it, like you said. I mean, that's the quickest and easiest thing to do. And then just make sure that you don't have any EMFs around your bedroom. One other thing I would recommend is that make sure you check your house, and if it has a smart meter on it, figure out if there's a bedroom next to it. A lot of bedrooms with the smart meters on the outside of the house, they change them up. That radiates in all during the night and can affect your sleep. I mean, headaches, it can just totally disrupt you. And so some counties, some cities allow you to pay, like down here where I am, I have to pay like an extra $65 a month to have one of the analog meters put back on that doesn't, and somebody has to come out to my house and check it manually check it, but I'm not getting blasted with all the frequencies.
That's a good idea.
So make sure that you don't have a smart meter outside of your house. And if you do, make sure you get that changed. And in the guide that I'm going to give you and some of the stuff that we have, we're constantly looking at that on how you can protect yourself from everything, basically. There are smart meter like adapters that go over the smart meter that will block out a lot of that electromagnetic frequency. And there's even wall paints now too. And that's kind of where I see things going with all the 5G, where you're going to have to probably paint your walls with, EMF protective paint.
Wow. That's cool. I didn't even know about that.
Yeah. But I mean, I'll keep you updated with
Okay.
with all that on a regular basis and what you need to do to protect yourself. But it's EMFs, just remember, are about 100% more harmful to children than they are adults, because the children are just so sensitive.
Right. Right. Okay. So now I think did I read your mind? Like you wanted to quickly ask what they do to strengthen their relationship.
Yes,
I
that's
knew that
exactly
answer
what I
was
wanted to
coming.
ask. I was like, we're talking about relationships here, with everything going on and COVID and people stuck in their house together. And it's been really hard for us because we can't invite anybody in the house. So we don't have a nanny or babysitter or anybody here. And it's just us and the kids. And as you can see, they're running around right now.
And we don't
So-
feel guilty anymore about date night because,
Well, we
by
don't
the
have a date
time
night.
by the time date night comes around, I am so exhausted. So we kind of do
Yeah, but I
we
still
just
want to have
do
a date night.
different things.
So
Well,
so what do you guys do in this with everything that's going on? What do you guys do to still strengthen your relationship? I know you have your business going on, and I'm sure you're speaking all over. What do you do to strengthen that relationship?
It's everybody's different.
Yeah.
So we have a very different philosophy of what's currently going on, because I am a truth seeker and I don't believe everything I hear on the news. And so I am part of a group of doctors, natural doctors, that have been working behind the scenes with what's going on, and finding out that pretty much what most people are seeing and hearing out there is not what's really going on. So it hasn't really affected our family life because we have not been in a state of fear.
Well, I love to hear this. I love this. This is you're speaking my language right now. This is what I'm battling with every day here.
So, I mean, as far as I'm
Stop it.
concerned, the reason that this whole thing has happened has been more geared towards political and financial strategized techniques to create fear in the population and to try to wreck the economy and to try to create a lot of havoc and violence. And we identified that very early on in this process. I mean, let's get real here. I mean, I'm not going to put a chain link fence around my house to keep mosquitoes out. Masks do not work. It's been proven. The American College of, Physicians and Surgeons. I mean, this is a mass censorship issue. We've been submitting protocols. We've been submitting natural remedies to boost your immune system. We've been heavily censored. All of our information, the group of doctors that I'm involved with that have been had millions of views. You probably know most of them. We've been out there trying to hold town halls. We've been doing all kinds of stuff to try to educate people. For the most part, I think there's a huge part of the population that gets it, but just doesn't want to really talk about it because of the political tension and stuff like that.
Right.
But and that revolves back to your original question. Like, this has not affected our relationship because we knew the truth from the beginning. Plus, we're our own doctors. We know how to treat everything. I mean, there's nothing that we haven't taught people how to completely eliminate. So it hasn't affected us as much as it's affected a lot of other people. So we still have our help. And this is I'm glad you brought that up, because this is what I always recommend to entrepreneurs. I talk to some people, either presidents of companies, they might not be the owner of companies, and they're just like, they're saving their money, they're investing their money. And I'm always like, the best investment you can make is to get your wife help. Hire her some help. Even if it's just coming in and washing clothes, doing the dishes, doing all the stuff that she doesn't have to do, so she can spend time with her kids, the kids, and she can be happy when you get home from work.
Absolutely.
Because, I have definitely learned, happy wife, happy life. I mean, the deal is, like, ultimately, we're not happy unless our wives are happy.
100%.
And so what I'm recommending, especially for the guys that I'm talking to, because guys are the ones that really are entrepreneur guys are having a really hard time. They're not, let's just say, we're not really trained to be around, crying children and all that. I mean, it's very hard because our minds are focused on work, and we're dealing with so many issues all day long, and employees problems and this and that. And, you know, when we want to get home, we just want to like be with the wife and be with the kids and have happy times and play and all that.
Yeah.
And this has kind of completely turned everything upside down for most families. And that's why my biggest advice for families right now is to get into a routine of winning the evenings and the mornings. If I was to give one, and it might not be that easy to do, but it will completely transform your life during any time of disrupt, because you're making that commitment to get rid of all those electronics, and you're taking yourself out of this environment, this stressful environment. You're taking yourself out of that, and you're spending time playing board games, or you're playing cards as a family, or you're just talking as a family, or you're doing projects, or you're cooking as a family. So from 7:30 on, there's no one kid's over here playing on the iPad, the other kid's over here watching a show on TV, mom's, you know, doing a bunch of stuff on her computer, dad's over here on business calls till, you know, 9:30 at night. Shut it down. Shut it down at 7:30. I mean, and even at 7:30, then you can eat, you know, do something together, or, you know, take yourself out and do some mindfulness or do some deep breathing exercises. And then for the rest of the evening, just, you know, go for a walk, go for a bike ride. Even if you want to do your own thing, grab a book. You can grab a book. She can grab a book. The kids can grab a book, or maybe listen to some nice, relaxing music together, or play a musical instrument. I mean, you know, play with some crystals, do something. Like my kids' toys were crystals until they were 2 years old. Like
I read that.
That's what they felt.
That's
amazing.
And, but just removing yourself and your family from the chaos is the best piece of advice. And that way you're going to bed a little bit early. I tell you, I guarantee you, if you do this for 2 days, by day 3, your whole family will be changed. Guaranteed. Day 3, your whole family will be changed.
I believe that.
Then you wake up early, you know, and start your day without any of that stuff, and start your day. And just, I mean, you can listen, just, you know, take 5 minutes, start with meditation. We're just going to close our eyes. We're just going to think about what we're grateful for. We're just going to thank God for everything. We're just going to run energy into our bodies. We're just going to be in a calm state. And then maybe starting off with like a 5-minute, you know, affirmations, you know, I am strong, I am healthy, I am, you know, you're just reinforcing the positive emotions and the positive mind, you know, your thoughts.
Yeah.
Instead of like what most entrepreneurs are doing right now is they're getting up at like 2 o'clock checking their phone, like 5 a.m. checking their phone, and they immediately get stressed because I can pick my phone up and I'm immediately going to see like somebody complaining about something, somebody, you know, doing this, somebody doing that. Because as entrepreneurs, like that's what we do, right? That's why we're at the top. Because when you get to a point where you have over 100 employees, all you're doing is just dealing with crap all day long.
Yep. You're just a
the
fireman.
Fun part of our day is like the tiny part where we're actually talking about innovation and like strategy and stuff like that. But you know how it is. It's like really like, because your employees are like a whole nother family, and it's like what most entrepreneurs, up to 50 employees, you know, it's fairly easy to kind of, I mean, I shouldn't say easy. If you have a good culture and you're working on that culture, anything under 50 employees is manageable. But then when you get over 100, oh my gosh.
It's
right
a
now,
constant fire.
what I'm hearing from the entrepreneurs is like, oh my gosh, like, you know, I never thought I would have to deal with this when I have, you know, a very diverse culture, but now I have like 50% of my employees on this side and 50% of my employees thinking on this side, because we are being divided, right? And if you even look into how we were divided, that was all set up on purpose anyway, to divide us, to control us, setting up the different parties. I mean, the true America is not red and not blue. It's red, white, and blue.
Blue, absolutely.
And that's unity. That's what we should be, working towards. But so because as an entrepreneur, we're in that mindset of, there's always stuff going on. We're getting hundreds of emails every single day, and it puts us in a sympathetic state. It happens to me every day. And that's why I had to stop it until I get my mindset for the day right. Because as soon as, and then I don't even usually check my phone until I'm back from the gym, because so do the time as a family in the morning, no phone, then do the spiritual development. Yeah. Then do your exercise or whatever that you're going to do for your body, then start your day. Because
that's a long stretch, doctor.
It is, but look, I mean, I don't know if it happens to you, but for me, like whenever, it's not really that long, right? Like 10 minutes to meditate, 10 minutes for maybe some IM meditation, maybe 10 minutes. That's 30 minutes in the morning.
Yeah, no, I'm good with that. I think
it doesn't even have to be that long. Do 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But then go to the gym, because I found myself like,
Dan, if baby Daniel can do it, you can do it.
Okay.
This is what happens to me. Like sometimes even 2 or 3 times a week, I have my routine of always going to the gym, but then all of a sudden some emergency will pop up on my phone in the morning. And I'm like, damn, now I got to skip the gym. I got to go into the office and deal with this situation or make this phone call or whatever. Or I just can't focus when I'm in the gym, and I'm just constantly thinking about what I'm going to do. And I'm just like, it just ruins it. I can't focus. And then I have to go deal with this situation. When in reality, it can wait, and it's probably going to do me good to just be in a better state anyway before I have to deal with that situation.
Son,
it's the juggle.
Yeah. So
it is. But those are my 2 points. Like just try to, and you can segue into that. I mean, just slowly, and just a little bit more time in the evening and a little bit more time in the morning. So.
Yeah, that's always a struggle, and I know it's we're always working towards doing our best, and I think we go through that. I'm sure you still go through that, even at the top of the food chain. You're still dealing with that too. Kids can always be dynamic. The one question that we always ask at the end, and it's purely hypothetical, but we want to put people in that right state when they answer the question. And imagine that you're on a plane and you're flying and you're talking to your kids on the phone, and the plane is going down, and you have the chance to leave one piece of information with your kids that they'll remember you for. What is that one piece of information that you'd want to leave with your kids at that point?
I'd probably say the most important thing is to get to know yourself as a person and get to know the person you are within. And I'd also say, if I had enough time, to choose something in your career that's going to create positive change in people's lives and in the world. Just because, and of course, I was like, I love you,
yeah. All the good stuff.
But I mean, if I was going to give one piece of advice, it's like, I see so many entrepreneurs and so many employees that hate their job and they don't feel satisfied. And I'm really big into talking and learning from ex-CEOs, like people in their 80s that ran companies. Yeah. And there's so much you can learn from the older senior generation.
So much. Yes.
And they all say, I wish I would have done something that I can look back on and say that I made a difference in the world, or it made a positive impact on millions of people's lives. They all say that. And so the beautiful thing about what we're all doing is that at the end of the day, with all the reviews and everything, like no matter how much crap we go through, at the end of the day, all I have to do is read one positive review of, I've seen 15, 20 different doctors for the last 20 years. And I was praying, and God sent me to your website, and I did your cleanses, and all my problems are gone. You changed my life, and I'll never be the same again forever. That is the most satisfying and the most gratifying thing to me. And I would only wish the same on my kids.
So true.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I totally understand what you mean. And you must get that so much because you're helping so many people. And it was so awesome to have you on here. We were both so excited about getting you on here. I was excited for her really because she was so excited to have you on here.
Well, because I feel our audience needs to hear this. We're talking about, better businesses, better relationships with your kids, but we are neglecting our health, as entrepreneurs. And as an expert in the field, I just knew that someone out there, many people out there, they need to hear what you have to say. So I feel very grateful to have you on the show. And we have so many more questions.
Yeah, we have a whole nother episode in us for sure.
Well, thank you for allowing me to come on your show and be on your platform, because it's, I'm excited about helping promote it as well, to everybody we know, and just, changing lives is what it's all about. That's what's gratifying. So yes, I would be like so over the moon to come back on and do another show. There's so many different things and that we can talk about, and helping so many parents dealing with just even a Q&A or whatever, just helping deal with the things they deal with on a regular basis, whether it's a headache or this, or, how to deal with these things. I think I've been through a lot of them, but I continue to evolve myself. And that's just what it's all about. It's a learning experience for kids and for us. And it's just how you handle that learning experience. Yes, we all screw up. I am definitely not know everything, admit I know everything, but, I can talk about a lot of different, even from infertility to how to, strengthen the kid and the child in the womb. One thing we didn't touch on was the very, very controversial issue of vaccinations, which I'm hardcore about.
That's a whole show.
Yeah, we talked about doing a whole episode on that, just because, it's all a part of our lives and it can affect our lives.
It's a big decision for people to make. You know?
That episode, a good friend of mine, I'm really good friends with Del Bigtree and Andy Wakefield and Elle McPherson and all them. I would highly recommend it. I'll set it up for you.
Yeah.
Let me get them on your show for you to talk about the vaccines. They're the world's leading experts, and they'll do a fantastic job on your show. And they will be, they are incredible when they talk about either that or Robert Kennedy as well.
Right. That would be great. Well, thank you so much for coming on our show. And we are so happy to be able to announce your new book. You have your new book coming out. When does that book hit?
Well, it's going to launch September 15th on
right around the
Amazon.
corner.
So they'll be able to get it on Amazon. They can we have tons of free information on my YouTube channel. You can type in pretty much anything in there and I talk about it. I have a bunch of videos going over 5G and EMFs.
So real quick,
that's just Dr. Group on YouTube. And then Global Healing as well is the site. We have a lot of educational material as well.
And where can they find you on Twitter and Instagram?
Global Healing or Dr. Group.
Perfect. And your 2 books? You have 2 books, or do you?
I have a new book coming out, which is called Secret to Health, which talks about the secret to health, which we talked about, and then The Power of Fasting. Those are the 2 books that we have available. The Secret to Health is not out yet because it's an upgraded version from Health Begins in the Colon, which was the original book that we wrote, exposing all this stuff and talking about all these chemicals and toxins and everything. So I'll be happy to send both of you a copy of each.
Oh yeah, that's a must read for sure. For all of us men anyways, for sure. We need to read that. Okay, thank you so much, Doctor, and we'll catch you soon.
All right, thanks. Thanks for having me on. Take care.
Love you. Take care.
Love you.
Thanks for listening. Please subscribe. We love you.